welcome back. So let's say that instead of having the little static platforms for the player to jump on, you want to have something a little more engaging, a little more interactive, and we'll call them moving platforms, right? I'm sure you guys have seen those in several games before. We're going to go ahead and make a couple of those, right? We're also going to make sure that our player stays on the platform while it's moving and doesn't just slide off. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to build our basic platform, right? This is going to be a little bit different than probably some other videos that you may have seen. That's just how I like to do it. Alright, so I'm going to create an empty game object in our hierarchy. So again, right click in your hierarchy, choose create empty object, and I'm going to name it moving platform. In this one, I'm going to add a rigid body 2D. I'm adding that because even though we're going to move the platform manually, this rigid body 2D will allow it to interact correctly with the player's physics. Alright, I'm going to set the body type from dynamic to kinematic. That will ensure that it won't be affected by the physics, but can still push things. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my interpolate mode to interpolate and collision detection to continuous. And I think that's really about it. I don't anticipate it actually rotating while it's moving, but we can press it just to be on the safe side if you want. I guess the next thing we're going to add is a child game object. So we're going to right click on moving platform, create an empty again, and this time we're going to name it visual because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be our visual. Right? I'm going to add a sprite renderer to this sprite renderer, and in this sprite renderer I'm actually going to come over here and where are we going? Environments. We're going to go down to treasure hoard PNG, and I'm going to take this ground one and place it in there. I'm also just going to go ahead and duplicate this 2 more times. I'm going to take this first one, and while holding V, I'm going to snap the top left corner to the top right corner of the first visual iteration. I'm going to change the ground 0 to ground 1. Now I'm going to take ground or visual 2, and I'm going to snap it to the top left corner of the visual 1 copy. I'm going to switch out ground 0 for ground 2. So now if you look at it, it's one continuous sprite platform. I'm going to go ahead and move this down here right above the lava. Let's see if we can make it line. Yeah, that lines up actually pretty good. So now it's going to look like it is floating right on top of the lava, which is a nice little look there. So on this first one though, I'm going to add a box collider 2D, and I'm actually going to extend it out so that it covers the length of the platform and those other 2 platforms right there. I'm going to set the layer of all of these. Actually, no, I should only be able to set the layer. Yeah, we'll set the layer to ground for this one. And just to be on the safe side, what I'll do is I'm going to go there just to be safe. So now it's all one continuous thing, and the box collider is surrounding the entire platform. It's set to ground so the player can move back and forth on those 3 squares, and it should be just fine. Alright. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a script to it. So let's go down to our scripts folder. We're going to create a script. We're going to name it moving platform. I promise I'm not usually this disorganized with my scripts. In the next series, I plan on doing an RPG. I don't know if it's going to be a JRPG or an ARPG. Let me know in the comments which one you guys would rather have, and I'll go from there. But in that series, I'll actually have folders in the scripts folder, subfolders in that folder to sort out everything a little bit better. So let's go ahead and open up our moving platform. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add some variables. First one's going to be a transform. It's going to be called point A. We're going to add another one. It's going to be called point B. We're going to add a float, which will be the speed. That'll be 2f. We're going to add a private variable, which is going to be a vector 3. Sorry about that. I had something in my throat. I'm going to name this one target. In our start function, we're going to go ahead and say that the target is going to be equal to point B dot position. And then instead of update, we're actually going to use fixed update instead. We're going to be using fixed update because it ensures a smooth movement when working with the rigid body 2D. Now, inside of here, we're going to use transform dot position is equal to vector 3 dot move towards. We're using move towards because it's predictable and the frame rate independent. We're going to be moving the parent object so that the rigid body moves with the platform. That's the goal here, and it's going to be transform dot position target, and we're going to pass the speed times time dot delta times time dot delta time. What we're going to say is this one's going to be if we've arrived at the target. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say if vector 3 dot distance transform. Why does it say sprites shapes? That should say, did I misspell? No, I didn't misspell speed. So, okay, that's weird. All right, transform dot position, comma target. We're gonna say if it is less than 0. We'll say 0.5 f. Then hold on. Right here there should be a parenthesis. There we go. Alright, and what we're going to say is we're going to say the target is going to equal, and we're going to switch the target A to B, the position of point A dot position. And then this next part is just going to basically bounce it between the 2 points. Alright, go ahead and press Control S to save that. Next we need to set up our movement points, okay? So what we're going to do is minimize this. We're going to click on our moving platform. Once everything compiles, right click on it, we're going to choose a point A, so create an empty, we're going to name it point A, press Control D to duplicate, we're going to change this one to be point B, and point B we're going to move all the way over here. Point A is going to stay right there. And let's see. Actually, I move the platform, which means I'm going to have to move both of these again. So point A is going to come over here this way, right there where that little chest thing is. Point B, we're going to move all the way back over here, right above, it's on the right side of that little like hail of the lava. All right, and then let's go ahead and put our moving platform script right there. We're going to go ahead and add point A to point A, point B to point B, and let's see what happens to test it out. So let's click on scene, and you can see it's already working its way back. There it is. Oh, it kept going. Where are you going, moving platform? It keeps going because point A is moving with it. That's why. I'm a knucklehead. Alright, so let's go ahead and take these off. Right, and no, don't be a child of that. And now it should be fine. Let's see. Point A is right there. Point B is still right there. Moving platform still has it. Now let's test it out. It never could get to point A because, well, point A kept moving. There, it bounced off of point B. And now we should see it hit this marker area right here. And it bounces back. There we go. Alright. Now, if you wanted to, you could really just kind of mess with the player a little bit and move it just close enough to where they think they can actually like step onto it, and then they fall in, and so they have to do like this weird little like tiny little jump to get on there. But I'm not feeling that mean today, so we're gonna leave it right there. That way they know they gotta jump onto it. Alright, let's go ahead and save our progress, that way in case it crashes. Next we're going to be doing is making the player stick, because by default, if the players stand on a platform that moves, they're just going to be left behind, because Unity doesn't automatically carry objects that are grounded on kinematic bodies. So we need to make sure that the player that is a child of the platform temporarily, basically. And so what this will do is this ensures that the player inherits the movement of the platform. We're going to, this will require no manual velocity additions or compensation needed. And for me, it's just the cleanest and most consistent method of doing this. Alright, and right now it says, I had an error that said there was 2 event systems in the scene, so I'll have to fix that at some point. Interesting. Make sure that there's only one. Maybe in the next video we'll do that. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go back to our code, and what we're going to look for is, I have a lot of code open, so let's close some of this. Alright, I'm not using those or that or that or that or that. Alright, I am using the player controller, so we'll use that. And in our player controller, what we're going to do is we're going to say, how are we going to do this? Actually, let's go back to Unity real quick. In our tags here, we're going to create a tag. And this tag is going to say moving platform. There we go. And we're gonna set this to be moving platform. There we go. Bam. Alright. We're gonna use that, and we're gonna do a compare tag. That's the plan. Alright. Down here at the bottom, underneath everything, I'm just gonna type in private void on collision enter 2D, and we're gonna say if collision dot game object dot compare tag moving platform, Notice, I know I did not change it to other. That's intentional because I'm not using a trigger enter. I'm using a collision enter, and so that's just why for me collision makes sense to be used with collision, and then anything else can be other for the triggers. So that's why I didn't change it to other like I did with all the on trigger enters. Transform dot, we're gonna set the parent to be the transform of the collision object. Okay, now that shouldn't affect our jumping or movement of it. We'll test it out, and then this one is going to be basically we're going to take and copy the not cut it out. We're going to Control C copy, Control V paste, and instead of enter we're going to change it to exit. And what we're going to say is, instead of all this stuff after the set parent, it's going to say no. Right, and that should work. So let's give it a go. All right. Maybe 2 is too slow. The jump didn't work. That was weird. All right, let's try this again, and let's try not keeling over. Interesting. Why is my jump not working? Huh. Neat. Something happened with the jump, and it might have to do with this event system thing. Let's see. Event system. Let's go ahead and just delete one. No. Interesting. Huh. Let's see. Huh. Wonder why it's not working. What is this at the console? 75. Huh? Oh, alright. So I need to put the audio manager in. There we go. Audio manager's in. And now let me turn the sound down. That way it doesn't blow out the speakers for you guys. Alright, the player's moving. He's jumping. Everything is good to go now. Now we're just waiting on this platform. And as you can see, he can move around on it without falling off. He can stand there without sliding off. And if you look, the player's gone, right? Because he's underneath the platform as a child of the platform. Alright. So he's a child of the platform right here. And when we jump off, he's no longer a child of the platform. And that's for the horizontal one. I guess that took us 19 minutes. So in the next video, we'll probably actually end up doing the vertical one. There's no need to really create new code. Actually, yeah, we can just do that now because there's no need to create new code. So let's see here. Let's see here. What we can do is, might help if we end out to our game section. Let's go to our moving platform. We're going to move this over here this time. And our point A, we're going to move up here. Actually, we're going to leave it down here. We're going to move our platform up a little bit, and then our B, let's for now put it at 7. I think it was at 0.25, right? Point A. Yep. All right. And then we're going to move our B point up here, and if we press play, then it should just start moving up and down. So you could add a weight if you wanted to at each point, but I like to not add the weight. I like to make it a little more challenging for the player. So now that you've added one of the most important and to me amusing mechanics in a 2D platformer, aside from the platforms that disappear like in the Mega Man games, maybe we'll do that one as like a little bonus video. I don't know. If you'd like to see that in a bonus video in this series, let me know in the comments. Alright, so the player can ride safely, he can ride reliably. There's parenting logic and a flexible waypoint based movement system, and you've got clean and powerful system that you can reuse all over in your levels. Alright, let's go ahead and actually press stop, and let's take this platform. We're going to go ahead and just make that a prefab. We'll go ahead and make these points a prefab too. We're gonna call it instead platform point. That's what we're gonna do right there, and we're just gonna make one of them actually a prefab because we won't need the other one. All right, let's go ahead and put B. Back down to negative 5.11 on the Y, and then we're going to drag this guy all the way back over here where he was. There we go. Alright, now that everything's back to where it was, we can go ahead and put our moving platform back down and a little more in the center. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy what we're doing. Thinking about doing some Udemy videos as well, or putting these on Udemy as well. I don't know. We'll see. Keep learning, keep playing. I'll see you in the next one.